MovieWeb.com.
You have to forgive me, Samantha, because I've not been completely honest.
We're from the desert, you know.
You see, we actually don't have a child.
They lied to you.
I know.
They're liars.
Okay, I know you're right. But it's $400. This equals first month's rent and then some, and all I have to do is sit inside and watch TV. This is huge. This one night changes everything for me.
So I want to begin by asking about the film. I really loved the opening title sequence. It's really awesome and totally has like this 80s feel to it and to the picture. So I was wondering, was that important to you to bring that to the film? What aspect of those 80s horror films did you want to bring to the picture, and what was that like to do?
Well, I mean, as far as the opening titles go, I wanted something that really like primed the audience for the tone of the movie. So, you know, and I also wanted something that would be like make the character instantly likable. So I always knew I was going to do like freeze frames, and I always knew it was going to be like her walking and really just kind of, you know, her on display. So you knew what the movie was about. She's in every frame, and the music is like awesome, and it was just a way to get people psyched about what they were about to see. So that was really the plan for it.
Were there certain films from the 80s that you were drawing from that inspired you to make this film?
Not really. I mean, the title treatment is certainly familiar to that time period, but it's not. There wasn't like, oh, this movie did that, so I want to do that. It wasn't really that calculated. It was just I always knew I wanted her coming out of the apartment happy, and you see that freeze frame with this like contrast of what the title of the movie was. So you see her finally happy, and it's like the house of the devil. So that was just always a plan in my head.
Awesome. And the film does unfold in a very slow pace or a deliberate way, like some of those films of the 80s did. Was that something intentional you wanted to do? And so I'm wondering, how do you think audiences today that are used to horror films like Saw and stuff like that will adapt to that kind of retro storytelling?
I mean, it's subjective, so some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, you know, but that's the, you know, you can't win. So you can't really make a movie to please everybody. But it wasn't so intentional to make it slow as much as that's just my style of filmmaking. Like I've made several movies, and everyone always says that, oh, you got this kind of slow, old-fashioned style, and it's like, all right. You know, it's just kind of what makes sense to me. I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere, and I like hanging out with the characters, and I like, you know, experiencing this like realism moments. I'm not in a rush to get to the horror stuff. So that's just me as an audience and a filmmaker.
Cool. And Jocelin, what was the experience like for you? Was there anything that Ty asked of you that you weren't expecting, that surprised you, that was difficult for you to do in the film?
Well, we did a lot of rehearsing and talking about it before we started shooting, so by the time we got on set, we kind of had a shorthand for how to describe what was going to happen or what he wanted from the scenes, and Ty's really good at communicating, you know, even the little tiny details about what I would be thinking internally, or luckily we shot sequentially, so kind of the tension and the stakes get higher and higher as the night goes on and on. So even though I'm alone for a lot of the film, I kind of always know where I'm going.
There's definitely some creepy things that your character has to do towards the end of the film. Did anything ever really freak you out? Like after you left set, it was hard to kind of get over some nightmares or anything like that?
Bruises, probably.
Yeah, the bruises took a while to heal. But the first night of shooting, you know, there was only one night we shot the ritual, and that was definitely the hardest. And even though it's fake, you're still tied to the floor. You can't move your arms and legs, and you're blood-soaked and all of these crazy things. You just wonder, you know, you can't believe you're there in that situation. But the first take is always the most visceral.
Was it fun getting to sort of have that risky business sort of moment?
Oh yeah, yeah, that was definitely my funnest day on the shoot, and because most of the time I'm bummed or anxious or worried or scared, and so that was my chance to let loose.
Awesome. I want to ask you what you feel veteran actors like Tom Noonan and Mary bring to the film, and what sort of authenticity they bring to a movie like this.
I mean, they're just really great actors, and I think that's something that I'd worked with Tom before, and it was great to work with him again. And he's a very subtle actor, but he's very calculated in what he does, and I think it translates very well in that he's a creepy guy just in real life, but at the same time, he's not he's not so intimidating because he's soft-spoken and he's sort of a gentle giant. So like there's a weird creepiness to that, which I think is really interesting. It's like both sides of the coin. And then Mary, I just think has like some of the most intense screen presence of any human being ever. And I've always wanted to work with her, so it was like a real treat to get her to do that. And I think they pair together very well because he's this kind of henpecked husband, and she pretty much wears the pants in the family.
Was there anything that you were able to take from them and their performances or advice they were able to give to you as an actress on the set?
Mary had a lot of interesting things to say just about the horror genre or not being taken seriously because she's been in so many horror films, and you know she's kind of like, screw that, we don't, you know, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself or even consider people's opinions of scream queens or if you have to be that or not. And it was just interesting to see how both of them worked on their scenes. And you know, Tom, like he said, is kind of very flip and seems very carefree, but he gives a really calculated performance. And Mary's much more controlled and domineering in this kind of creepy way. So they both had an interesting way of work.
Great. And finally, Ty, I need to ask you, Eli Roth has been quoted as saying that Cabin Fever 2, it will never see the light of day. What do you
Has he
think
been quoted saying that?
He has.
Oh,
yeah.
that would be kind of awesome. But no, it'll come out. But not much to my chagrin. I mean, yeah, it's a really bummer experience that you kind of could Google it to find out the information. But it's sort of Alan Smithy territory for me. But I'll have to talk to Eli about that. But yeah, I think they're planning next year. But I haven't had anything to do with that movie in well over a year. So.
What feelings do you sort of take away from that experience? If you
bummer is the key feeling. I mean, it's like, you know, I got kind of screwed, and you kind of, you know, you learn from what happens, and you know, that's a movie that they kind of took away and did the kind of cliche studio thing to, and they had the best intentions. They're not bad people, but I just can't get on board with it. So.
Does that make you want to protect your films in the future?
Oh yeah, for sure. It makes me probably very difficult because now I'm very protective. But I think I was then too. It snowballed out of control.